Few days ago, the Israeli government launched an attack on Iran, causing great damage by taking out most of its top military officials and scientists. Now this obviously calls for an all-out war. Iran in response launched series and waves of retaliatory attack on Israeli soil, penetrating through the Iron Dome and air defense system, killing some civilians. Now this has already escalated, and in these circumstances, tensions rise high, and whenever there is a war, the question you would always want to ask is, who is my friend? Who can I call to join me, to help me in my time of need? So that when there is a war, people would take sides, and the warring factions would call on their allies and friends to join them in force to cause the greatest harm to their enemies. This is a serious fight. It is a fight that could easily open up a black big hole that could suck in a lot of people and a lot of nations, and things would just go on beyond what anyone could control. And that is a serious and dangerous situation we are in right now. Now, I don't want to take my focus well over the board. I want to narrow it down to my country and my people. That is Ghana. And I want to ask this to you, my dear, good, respected audience and listener. What side are you on? Hi, salam alaikum. You are about to listen to Human Bound Podcast. This is the voice of your brother, Ali Hambal, and I am the host of this podcast. I really appreciate the time you give me on this podcast. It's really a treasure. If this should be your first time joining me on this podcast, here is what you should know about this podcast thing that I do. Every week, I ask questions, because I believe questions are very important gateways to knowledge and wisdom. After all, what do you know? Nothing. I asked this question to a friend of mine, what do you know? And he said, enough to get me going. Now that is a wise answer. So, the questions I ask every week is not to give an answer to them. No, what I do with these questions is to explore, try to expand my horizon. That's what I try to do. I try to look through different lenses to see how I can make sense out of this senseless world. Now, a person may say, in this exploration to those questions, do you take sides? Do you even know what you are doing? Well, it's always help if a person has got an anchor. If you get any direction, my direction is always to humanity. Now, this is so indicative to the name of this podcast, Human Bound. This podcast is always on the side of humanity. So whenever I am looking into any question, my direction is to find the human element in those stories or in those questions. I'll try to always find the human element, what binds us to our nature, what causes us to do all these things. I want to find out. So if you ever wondered which side I always take in any story, which side I always take in any question, what am I trying to find out? Now that is it. I'm trying to find out the human element in there. Because I believe if we know the human element in all these things, then we kind of know the direction things would be going. So I ask questions, and in this episode, I want to ask a very difficult question to my dear listener. What side are you on? Knowing very well that people could take sides based on where they are coming from, based on their background. Because whenever there is such a war, people could take a look at it from different angles. Sometimes people take a look at it from cultural angle. Like, I'm a Jew, I'm an Arab, right? So I am supporting the Arabians, I'm supporting the Jewish. And sometimes people would say, I am a Christian. And sometimes people would say, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew. So that the support of the war would be on the lines of religion, which is a very serious thing because religion has got no geographical boundaries. It is everywhere. There are Muslims and Christians and Jews in every country, so that if there is a war between Muslims and Christians, or Muslims and Jews, or something along the line, then what we will be seeing is not a war that is limited to Middle East, that is limited to Iran and Israel, and Iran and Palestine. Then it will be a war that is ideological, it's not national, it's ideological. And ideologies have got no geographical boundaries, it's everywhere. So that even when you are living in Ghana, then you are at war because you have this idea that your religion is at war. And then people would take sides based on their religious affiliation. So now I ask the question further, what side are you on? Bearing in mind that the war front is not only dealt with, it's not only limited to missiles and drones. The warfare that is more effective today is the human and the public perception warfare. What people think, how people could move narratives, so that propaganda is the most efficient tool and weapon today than anything. How does the world look at you? Do you have the public support, the public opinion? Does it tilt towards your favor so that people would spend a lot of money and resources in shaping public perception? Are you sure that the side you are taking right now is not influenced by propaganda and lies and twisted stories? Now, these are dangerous times, and I thought I might ask this question today to my friends and my countrymen. So we are aware, not that we are not, I'm just trying to add my voice to the incalculable number of voices out there that are trying to call the conscience of people and bind them to what is human. Because wherever there is war, the immediate response to the war is a call for peace. And if anything is not done about that, then the war could go on and on and on, and we wouldn't know when light will shine upon this glorious world that we may find peace. So the question therefore is to my Ghanaian people and my fellow Muslims, what side are you on? There is one man in this whole thing in Ghana that I do not kind of envy right now. And that is our foreign minister, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Now, you may have seen something in circulation on the social media. I believe it is a news that is circulating with respect to Ghana abstaining from a vote, and Israel is disappointed that Ghana had abstained from the vote. Now, the title or the headline of this specific one from Joy News, you may have seen it, but it says that Israel disappointed. Ghana abstained from IAEA voting on Iran's non-compliance with nuclear obligations. Now, as many people, you may have read the headline, but you have not read the story. And it is quite possible that many people who share this and vent their displeasure and sentiment may not even know what IAEA means, so that people would only read the headlines but do not read the story. And I just want to read a bit of the story to you so that you may have a little bit of a background of it. Now take a listen. On myjoyonline.com it says, the state of Israel has expressed disappointment in the government of Ghana for abstaining from a vote supporting a declaration that Iran is in breach of its nuclear non-proliferation obligations. On Thursday, 12 June 2025, the 35-member Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, chaired by Ghana, adopted the resolution for the first time in almost 20 years, raising the prospect of Iran being reported to the United Nations Security Council. Now, this is the background. This was what the vote was all about, that Iran might be reported to the UN Security Council. And then the board voted for Iran to be held responsible for that. Ghana abstained. Now, I might further read to you how the voting went down. It says that diplomatic sources at the closed-door IAEA meeting confirmed that the resolution sponsored by the United Kingdom, France and Germany passed with 19 votes in favor, 11 abstentions and 3 against, which means Ghana is among the 11 that abstained. But those who voted against were Russia, China and Burkina Faso. Now, this was the abstention that Israel was disappointed in. Now, here is the response of Israel to Ghana. It says, reacting to Ghana's decision in an interview with some journalists at his residence in Accra, the Israeli ambassador to Ghana, Sierra Leone and Liberia, Mr. Roy Gillard, voiced his government's dismay. He said Israel had counted on Ghana, described as a long-standing friend, to support the resolution. He further said, Ghana abstained in the vote at the IAEA. Eventually, 19 states voted that Iran is in non-compliance with its nuclear program. We've lobbied Ghana very strongly to support the resolution, yet Ghana abstained, Ambassador Gillard said during a press engagement at his residence in Accra. Now, Ghanaians were like, why would they expect us to support them? Why? Some Ghanaians feel like the Israeli ambassador has overstepped his bound when he thinks Ghana would support it. Now the question is, does Ghana support Israel? I want to start with Ghana as a country before I go down to the individuals. Now here's the thing. I want you to listen to this because there is one person right now whom I do not envy in this whole situation, and that is our foreign minister, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He is the person at the front of this whole thing. He is a person who would be responsible for shaping the Ghanaian government's foreign policy, how we would relate to this whole thing, where our allegiance and where our friendship would manifest itself. Are we going to ally ourselves to any of those factions? Are we going to ally with Iran? Are we going to ally with Israel? Now, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is the foreign minister, and he is at the front of shaping foreign policy and carrying out Ghanaian foreign policy. Now, before Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa was appointed or was given the nod to lead that ministry, as you all know, he would undergo a vetting process. Now, this vetting during his time came about with a lot of tension because so many politicking happened anyway. But then at the end of the day, he showed up, right? He showed up and he sat in front of the honorables and he got interrogated and he got questioned. Now, so many questions flew. Some of them carried missiles aiming at him. And then he managed to deflect a lot of them and he answered a lot of questions. Very intelligent guy. He knows what he was all about. Now, among all those questions, there was one question that really becomes relevant to what we are talking about today. And that was the question that Honorable Jinapo posed to him at the time. And it had to do with his philosophy. Okay, who is he in terms of this world politics ideas? Now, I'm sure you know that we've got the right wing and we've got the left wing. Now, the right wings are always fighting for nationalism. They are fighting for capitalism, for free market. The right, and then a lot of that. And then there is the left wing that has this leniency towards socialism and towards people having a fair attention and all of that. Now, this is just a surface, right? I'm not giving you like what really is all about, because there is a lot of things down between the right wing and left wing. But what you need to know is he has this leaning to the left wing, but I wouldn't want to put words in the mouth of the honorable man. I want you to take a listen of this portion of his interview. What was the name? Vetting, right? Now, here we go. Take a listen. Just take a listen.
And Mr. Chairman, let me place on record that I am not a communist. Of course, I am left of center. All of us in the NDC subscribe to the left of center political ideology, which we are very, very proud of. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has worn the badge proudly, because we believe in the welfare state and we believe in humanism to our economic interventions that don't encourage exploitation, particularly by a few elites. So you are right about where I belong ideologically. Left of center, which is where my party, the NDC, belongs. So I am very much at home. Having said that, let us remember Kwame Nkrumah's tact and skillful approach to our foreign policy. Kwame Nkrumah was on the left, but he managed to, at the height of the Cold War, a bipolar era, to still get the Americans to support him in the construction of the Akosombo Dam, and to still have the Russians to help him in building our atomic agency. So that model is what we must adopt. So our friends know where we belong ideologically, but they respect us and they know that we don't mean harm or we don't bear grudge or have any malice. We are friends of all and enemies to none. So be rest assured that even though I have left leanings, I will be very objective in pursuing our foreign policy, which Article 40 says must be guided by our national interests. Kwame Nkrumah did it. President Mahama has been doing it, receiving support from all sides. And in the current multipolar world, be rest assured that I will attend to this responsibility with all fairness and objectivity.
So now you know where your foreign minister lies. Your foreign minister is like left of right. Oh no, he said he was left of center, which means he's not far left. He is left center. Okay, he's towards the center of being left, you know. He is not right, but he is left. But then he's not a communist, he says, but he is a leftist, all right? And he acknowledges that. But how does that fit into this whole world politics? And how does it fit to what we are talking about right now, the war? Okay, because we're talking about the war. There is a lot of things I want to talk about this war and how it does go down to our humanity and how we would be cooperating these old things. But here's the thing. He talked about the position of Ghana as a matter of policy. And he mentioned something that you, my respected and informed audience, would be very much aware of. And he talked about the Ghana's position of non-alliance. Now, I want to read a little bit about this policy to you, because non-alliance is this position that the newly decolonized countries, African countries and Asian countries, have come to agree upon during the Cold War, during the times of Kwame Nkrumah, that African nations, the newly decolonized ones and the newly decolonized Asian countries, that they would not ally themselves with any of them superpowers in case of war, in case of, in times like these, when these superpowers are at war fighting each other, that these countries agree that they will not ally with any country. Now, that is the non-alliance movement, NAM. Now, I want to read something to you from Google. You may do that. It's so easy these days. And if you want to have further reading, you could just jump on one of these big websites and you could read quite a lot of that. Now, he says, Ghana was founding member of the non-aligned movement, NAM, actively participating in its establishment in 1961. The movement emerged from a Bandung conference in 1955 and aimed to unite countries not formally aligned with or against any major power bloc during the Cold War. Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah played a key role alongside leaders like Tito of Yugoslavia, Nehru of India, Sukarno of Indonesia, and Nasser of Egypt in initiating the movement. Now, you know Gamal Abdel Nasser having been very instrumental in so many things during his days. You say, this is what the non-alliance is. But what Israel was doing is trying to call on Ghana to reconsider this position of non-alliance. Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa indicated that Ghana would not be those who would ally themselves formally and officially to any country. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that Ghana has got no friends? No, you could hear from the voice of Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa that Ghana has got friends everywhere. In fact, during the war on Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, he was invited to Ukraine and he was invited to Russia, and he was a friend to both. Ghana is a friend to both, and he was invited by the Israel, and he went to the state of Israel, and he was invited by the Palestinians as well, and he went there. So that Ghana has got friends everywhere, but then they would not align themselves. Ghana will not ally itself in this time of need. I wouldn't say in this time, in this warring times. Okay, in these warring times, Ghana will not officially declare its position to support a specific country, so that we will not, as a people of Ghana, expect Ghana to come out to say we are in support of Iran or we are in support of Israel. We expect Ghana, therefore, to stand by their policy of non-alliance, to stay out of it. Maintaining their friendship, maintaining this friendship, but then we are not saying we are with this country. After all, that is what non-alliance in this sense means, doesn't it? This was not the case during the two world wars, because in the First World War and in the Second World War, Ghana had no option because we were colonized. We were literally the extended arm of the British colonial rule. So we did not have any options. And many of our troops actually were called to fight in both wars. You had no option. You can't abstain from a vote, and you can't abstain from sending your troops to carry on any fight. But then Ghana is now an independent state politically. And then it's got non-aligned movements that Ghana would not say, I am aligned to this country, even though Ghana has got an NDC government that is leaning towards the left in terms of ideology. But then it would be objective as indicated by Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa. The reason why I'm saying I do not envy him right now, because the magnetic field that is pulling countries to align themselves at this time is so strong. Now, there are so many interests that would be at play right now, political and economical interests. And if you are a Ghanaian and you know the harsh conditions and the way the president and the government is trying to revive the economy of the country, being hit by war is going to cause you to reconsider so many things. I am not sure how the future may look, but at this moment, we might want to look at the statement of Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa and say Ghana will do its best to act objectively, and if Ghana would side with anyone, then it would side on the side of peace and humanity. Instead of siding with a warring faction, Ghana would say, we are not aligning, we are aligning with peace, so that Ghana would be one of those voices that will pull the madness of war down to peace. Now, that is what we hope for. Now, this is as a matter of country's policy, okay? Now, bearing this in mind, knowing that this is where the country stands, at least by way of policy, you may have your conspiracy theories as to what is going on the ground. I do not have so many information like that, but I'm just working with what we know by way of policy, right? So, knowing this is the Ghanaian stance as a matter of policy, where does that leave the individual people? If you have not forgotten, when I started this episode, I tried to ask this question not just to the nation, but to individuals. And I tried to the best of my ability to pin it down to various elements that might cause people to take sides, including those would be religion. Now, Muslims would say we would side with Iran because Iran is a Muslim country. Now, this calls into question our knowledge as to where this war or what this war is all about. If this war is about religion, then we are looking at a war that has got no geographical boundaries. Then we are looking at a war that could exist everywhere. It could exist in your country and it could aggravate any person to whom you might say something quite aggravating. I am very careful not to say too much about this because tensions are so high, and the peace that people would call on right now would be the most important and the most urgent thing to call upon. Talking about religion with respect to this war, I would want to call caution. And then I would want to call people to be mindful of their language because it is a very, very emotional moment. And if there is one thing that stirs up people's emotion, that would be religion. Because religion deals directly to human heart and belief. And it can easily stir up the highest type of emotions. And when that is stirred up and it is ignited, you never know when it's going to land, right? You don't. Especially when people believe they are doing this for God. And if you believe you are doing something for God, then you have no bounds. Because God is the highest and you would do anything for him and you don't mind when it is your end because you're doing it for God. Recent history has shown us that religion has been used time and again for propaganda purposes. Do not forget that I started this by saying that human perception, public perception, is a very important key in this warfare, in this propaganda. Now, if you lose that, you lose it. And if you are careful enough and you are quite crafty, then you could tap into anything that could give you advantage. The sensationalization of war is a dangerous one. Now, why am I saying this? Now, listen, when you jump on TikTok, when you jump on Facebook or anywhere, you would see people dramatizing the event. They are spectating and they are like saying, go, go, go. Okay? Now, these are people who have never seen wars in their lives. I have never seen a war in my life. Thank God for that. And I don't wish it, because I have read a bit about war that made me frightful of it. When you read what happens to the people on ground where war actually devastated, when you read about the human stories, the families that got destroyed, the livelihood and lives that got damaged, and the whole race that got damaged and injured for life, you would be careful about how you chant, about how you go like supporting your football team, because that's what many people do, isn't it? That's what many people do. You sit in Ghana, right? And you have never seen war. Majority of Ghanaians have never seen violence in their lives. Now, if you're sitting in Zongo, the chances, the biggest violence, the darkest violence you have ever seen would be you going out to protest and burning tires on the streets. And sometimes the bloodiest violence Ghanaians have seen, or Zongo people have seen, would be Rabagari, right? That these ghetto people are fighting against these ghetto people, that these bands of people are fighting against these bands of people, so that we are doing rabagari, right? That would be the bloodiest and the most unsettling violence perhaps the average Zongo man have seen. And many, many more Zongo people have not seen violence, as opposed to the notion that is circling in the minds of other people in Zongo, understand or thinking that Zongo people are violent people. Just know that Zongo people, many of them have not even seen violence in their lives. So why don't you kick out that idea? Why don't you stop thinking that Zongo people are violent people? I'm a Zongo man, born and bred. I've never seen a violence in my life. And many people, many other people have not seen violence in their lives. And that is how human perception and public perception about people, about Zongo, have gone too far, that people are scared of you because they think you are a violent man because of one or two incidents. That's, Ghana is so peaceful that people think that the bloodiest violence, which is you burning tires on the streets, right? Or some bands of thieves would just come out and fight it on the street with daggers, and you could hardly even hear a gunshot sometimes. That is how peaceful we are. We have never seen war. And Zongo people are peaceful people. They don't see violence. And Ghanaians are generally peaceful people. They have never seen violence. The last violence we have seen, always when there is some elections, then there is this political tension everywhere, and that would be it. Then we have crime rates. And what would be our crime rate in Ghana anyway? Okay, so somebody has impregnated some lady, right? So there is a double track system, and those who went out to vacation before the resuming time of schools, many young girls have been impregnated, right? That is the kind of news we have in Ghana. Oh, no, there is 7 people that police have brutalized somewhere, very bloody. Okay, we see this domestic violence here and there, and when it is a political season, sometimes there are incidents at some places, and then we deal with it after elections. We hardly see this tension rising. Okay, so that Ghana is a peaceful country, and we have not seen a bloody war. And during the coup d'etats before the Fourth Republic, many of us have not seen it. Indomie generations, we have not seen that. Thank God for that, right? The reason why I'm saying is because these people like us who have not seen this kind of violence, you would be shocked to know that many of us have not even seen a gun before. Such as myself, I've never seen a gun before. until recently when I saw one. And even to hold the gun in my hand is something, yes, that is Ghana, right? But these are the people through propaganda, because the world have become globalized, isn't it? Because news is flying everywhere and sentiments is rising everywhere, and we think we can chant, like support a country, like go fight, right? Fight. And we will be sharing these videos of houses being bombed by rockets and drones, and we'll feel like we are doing something grandiose by supporting these death and bloodbath. Now, you may have your side, but do not let your side cloud your humanity, that you don't see that people are dying on there, families are being buried, that people are losing their livelihoods. Now, before today, there have been so many bloodbaths in the world. Now, Africa, Ghana, we are so fortunate. We have not seen them. We only felt the ripple effect of them from far distance, like economic, kind of effect that always hit Ghana. But we have not felt it like physically. So that we don't understand usually what happens when these things happen. And when there are missiles going out, killing people, then some of us feel some kind of relief that is happening, because it is our side that is doing the killing, and it is the other side that is doing the suffering. In as much as we may have our sentiments, I'm just making a caution call that, hey, how about you acknowledging that it's humans that are dying? And usually these are not the soldiers. How many of them soldiers have you heard to have died during these conflicts? Since the beginning of the recent killings and the death in Gaza and in Israel and all of that, how many of soldiers have you heard? Most of them casualties would be civilians, innocent people. And that could be you, and that could be me. Now, there was an interesting documentary I've seen like a long time ago. It was about the World War I. Now, that was a period where peace prevailed for a very long time during the Victorian era in the United Kingdom. Like for a long time, peace, development, progress. And for the very first time, people has got these ideas about war. And AI today has a way of making you feel like the war is something that is quite, grandiose, all right? AI could do that with this little nice background that seeks to stimulate your brain, get you excited about the whole war thing. Right, so the British people and the young men before the World War I, they didn't know war. But then war happened and they were going into the front lines and they were happy, waving their kids and wives. I'm going to war. See me in the uniform, right? I'm going to come back soon and you're going to have yourself a hero. Now, here's the fact. Many of them young men never came back. And Europe had a lot of it and they had enough. And they had to call everything back. Would it be possible that many of us are complacent because we have not been affected directly by these wars? Now, when these things are happening to you, you don't care. You don't care about size. All you care about is stop it. Yeah, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you don't care what happens, just stop it? Why don't we start to think in those lines so that there would be peace in Gaza, so that there would be peace in Iran, so that there would be peace in Middle East, so that world would be on the trajectory of development and growth? I know this is a far-fetched thing, it's a very difficult ask, but If there is a side that we could take at this moment, that would be the side of humanity. How about that? How about the side of humanity? How about the side that says, wait a minute, we have seen this before. It usually doesn't end well. And after it, we always spend a lot of time in misery before we recover again. How about stop it? Now that would be a very good thing to say, wouldn't it? Okay, this is just a question. And I hope we always have a good way of considering questions in a way that leads us to a very promised end, one that ends in glory. Glory for all human beings. Glory that because it has ended human suffering. Glory because it has limited the damage to civilians and innocent and vulnerable people. I hope the world would one day wake up to say, we have been mad. We have gone crazy. How about we stopping it all? I hope to see that day. And thank you very much for staying with me on this podcast. Salam alaikum.